Please be seated. I am reminding you that, as usual, this meeting is being filmed. Are you happy for me to sign the minutes from the last meeting? Yes. Do we have any apologies?
We do, Madam Mayor, and a very unfortunate noise. I have apologies from Councillor Housel, Councillor Hellas, Councillor Hillier-Simons, Councillor Holsworth, Councillor Jerome, Councillor McGee-Sumner, Councillor Ray, Councillor Mile, Councillor Singleton, Councillor Cowan and Councillor Swan.
Thank you very much. Public question time. Can you listen, please? I beg your pardon. Do you have anything to declare?
Yes, again, I think one of my children work for a company that's continuing to walk in terms of regeneration and it's non-pecuniary. That was all. Thank you for
very much. Anybody else? Jenny Lisserman, please.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the question standing in my name of Councillor Murphy, would you? Oh.
Sorry about that, Jenny, but you've got me. Thank you very much for your question. Progress was made in identifying a way to bring the property back into use as affordable housing. The mechanism designed to encourage owners to engage include the use of grants and loans to offset against future income from rent. This was subject to a change of use being granted and agreement to engage with the council's partners, Flexible Home Improvement Loans Limited. This is a not-for-profit company which we are a member of. Due to the reasons outside our control, the owner decided not to proceed. Since that time, it appears that the management of the property has changed hands, and recently a conversation has begun to resurrect a similar deal. The enforcement options available to the councils are designed to deal with areas which are blighted by large-scale empty properties or where the property is left in a dangerous or filthy state, and do not apply in this case at present. We hope to be able to proactively work with the owner, the new owner of the site, to secure the property and bring it back so it can be used as an alternative such as affordable housing.
Thank you very much. Do you have any supplementary?
Yes, so that's good news that that you are in conversation with the new owner. Could you give me some kind of time scale about how often you will be meeting with them and when you expect some positive results out of this new dialogue between the two of you? Because as I don't know if I said in the question, but it's 3 years since residents signed a petition to try and get something done.
I'm sorry, it has to be a question.
So when will something be done? And what's the time scale?
Okay, well, we're actually actively pursuing it at the moment, Jenny. I mean, we're not in a position to give you a timescale because we're waiting to hear from the owners of the property. Thank you.
Imogen Shepherd, please.
Good evening. The end date for the Station Link Road has slipped from September to November. Will you guarantee it is going to be ready in November?
Thank you. It's me again, I'm afraid, isn't it? The new link road will be open to traffic by the end of the month with access to the station for a period via the new Reading Road junction only. There are in the region of 12 weeks of work left to be carried out for completion of the whole project. The project team is looking to maintain the momentum of construction during this time.
You have something like that?
Yes, I do, thank you. What actions are being taken to inform Wokinghams residents about the route changes that they need to make when driving or cycling to the station?
I guess it hasn't come out yet today, but there has been a news release which will be coming out, and we will also be sending out our quarterly update that we can send out on a regular basis, so you should see that before the end of next week.
James, please.
Thank you very much. My question I think is for Philip. Do you still intend to build on the Rose Street car park?
Yeah. This time it is correct, yeah. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. You obviously wrote the answer yourself, didn't you? Are you aware of the work done by Towns Alive, formerly Action for Market Towns, on parking?
I'm not, but I'm sure you'll advise me.
Thank you very much. Do we have any petitions? Do we have Jackie Rounds here?
Good evening. I am Jackie Rance, Early Town Councillor for Radstock Ward. I'm presenting a petition on behalf of residents in Cleveland Drive and Radstock Lane in Early. The level of inconsiderate parking in the roads where they live near Radstock School at drop-off and pick-up times has increased significantly over the last year, and the residents request that the yellow lines are extended before there is a serious accident. Thank you.
Would you like to hand your petition? Thank you. Munir Ahmed, please.
My name is Munir Ahmed. I'm Abidon Costa. I'm presenting a petition signed by over 1,000 residents. Show that people of Woodley want to have a say in what is provided at Woodmish Leisure Centre. Residents are pleased that Woodley Town Council saved the swimming pool and the leisure facilities for the Woodley community when in 1995 Berkshire County Council and Tory-controlled Woking Borough Council were more than prepared to see it closed. Now is the time to invest, and the residents want to see new improved facilities charging affordable prices so that the pool and other facilities are accessible by all community. Unlike other pools in the borough, the running costs of existing facilities in Woodmish had to be paid for by the Woodley town residents rather than the Woking Borough residents. Woking Borough Council should invest for Woodley residents and to end the double taxation in Woodley.
Would you like to hand in your petition, please? Right. The petitioners and our questioners are welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting up in the gallery. Yes, I'm aware, but you will be sitting here for the rest of the meeting, won't you? Okay, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been asked by an area resident, Mr. Matthew George, to present a petition to add glass into the weekly recycling collections. Mr. George has particularly asked me to make these points. Several surrounding borough councils offer glass recycling within their curbside collection schemes. Wickham District Council, Maidenhead and Windsor are two examples. He is aware that there are collection drop-off points in supermarkets in key areas, but these are still require designated planning and a proactive approach to recycling. If glass recycling were made available on a curbside scheme, more people would use it, therefore increasing the green credentials of the borough. When visiting and living in the surrounding boroughs, he didn't see any broken glass on any streets due to glass recycling. Is it possible to include the glass recycling containers which are also sealed? And he has 438 petitions. Thank you.
Councillor Gilbert.
Thank you. I have here a petition which has been signed by over 500 residents of mainly South Lake or Lakeland. South Lake, or the people who actually enjoy South Lake. They ask that after many years of neglect, Wokingham Borough Council remove the accumulated debris from the Nightingale Road end of the South Lake and maintain the lake in future. The stench from this debris is appalling throughout the year, and the wildlife is also suffering. Thank you. So who do I give that?
Thank you very much. As you know, the Mayor supports a charity every year, and last year my charity was Building for the Future, and I was pleased to be able to give them a cheque for £11,000. Within the field of creativity and the arts, there are many talented young people in our borough who do not have the means or the opportunity to reach their potential. This year, I should like to do something to identify some of these young people and to help them to achieve their potential. I have therefore decided to set up a fund in association with More Arts in Wokingham to champion one or more young people in our borough between the ages of 14 and 19 who are already showing exceptional talent but lack the means to develop this talent. It could be, for example, acting, dancing, photography, painting, to mention a few. There will be an application procedure, and those selected will be given one-to-one mentoring in their particular artistic discipline. We'll have links to other artists in their field and support in accessing further education. So if you know of any such young person already at this stage, if you could please let me know. It's very important that we get this message out, and I look forward very much to support our talented artists in the borough. Councillor Pollack.
It's the Treasury Management you want me to propose, I think. I always think this is a very important report. I know that many of my colleagues here find it a little impenetrable, but given the borrowing and the investments that we have, and as we had the other year, the fact that the government decided to sell us back something we already own for 100 million. Nice if you can get it, but we have to pay for it. So it becomes a very important report. It starts on page 21. I wanted just to sort of draw your attention to a few items. The good news this year is that we finally got our money back on the investments in Iceland, or the Icelandic banks, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So that was really good news. We continue to finance a very significant capital programme. We obtain significant amounts of money from central government in connection with education, and that underpins a significant part of our capital programme, and also underpins a significant part of the amount of money that we have to manage and try and earn some interest on in the meantime. As you can see, I think if you look on page 32, you can see the returns that we have been getting from the different areas of investment. Also the costs of our debt, which at the moment is about 4.38%, which is relatively low compared to if you were borrowing it yourselves. The HRA, fortunately, is only at 2.79, and regrettably, we are only getting 0.79 on a lot of our investments that we hold ourselves. As you can see on the top of page 33, the breakdown of our debt, and that most of it is relating to the Public Sector Works Loan Board. Looking to the future, page 35, the Bank of England talk about raising interest rates, but they keep talking about it but don't do it. We're unclear, I think, looking to the future as to whether we will start to see rates rising, and therefore the income that we get on the money that we hold rising as well. The aspects of government debt, which obviously affects what they can provide to ourselves, as well as the Eurozone situation. I think it was one of the lessons we learned with the crisis in 2008 was the importance of counterparty risk. I think we still take the view that the counterparty risk in Europe is still higher than we would like, and we will probably not be investing in any European institutions. As you can see, I think if you, before we get there, if you turn on page 39, you can see the impact of the repayments for the Icelandic banks. I think when the crisis struck, I think there were members, particularly on the opposition benches, who thought I wouldn't get anything back. I think, as you can see, there are some small shortfalls there, but I think we've done jolly well. Or perhaps the lawyers have done jolly well, which is probably the truth of it. And the fact that there was something like £1 billion of public money, not to mention private money invested in these banks, we've been able to afford some very good lawyers. And as you can see, they've been worth it. Looking on to the following pages, you can see how the debts that we have are broken down. Particularly important, I think, on page 40 is that we've taken the opportunity with the low interest rates to lock ourselves into very long-term debt repayments, which is good for the council going forward, particularly if we expect interest rates at some point to rise. Looking on to the loan portfolio, we have there's a breakdown there of how the debt is set out, as well as the housing revenue debt. I do feel a little hurt that we have to take on a loan for something that we probably paid for when we built it, but for some peculiar reason we didn't own the income. I'm not quite sure how that works, but there we are. Moving on to the counterparty risk, as you can see, we mainly invest in local authorities because we've taken the view that we need to have very, very secure quality investments, and local authorities, for some strange reason, are very, very secure. So that's good news for them and good news for us. Also looking at the amounts that Scottish Widows and SWIP hold, you can see that we have effectively 57 million in investments, which actually, so I commend this report to Council.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder? Do you wish to speak now?
That's the thing. Well, just to say that it's a good job, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Yes?
Sounds like we have a joint a noisy one here as well. Thank you, Anthony. I'd like people to turn to page 27. Anthony did go through lots of pages, but he skipped over page 27. And I refer to both the General Fund and the HRA. You will notice that both the capital expenditure and financed in the year, the budget for 13-14 was 79 million for the capital expenditure and financed in the year 60 million, but the actual was 39 and 33. Considerably short. There is a footnote to say why. It would be very useful to have an indication of what the individual component parts are of that shortfall. But secondly, the main thing is I'd like to understand what the financial impact on Woking Borough Council is of these slippages, because it's not a small sum. We're talking 40 million, 33, 37 million, 27 million pounds here, which is quite substantial. So I'd like an understanding from that, Anthony, as to whatever. However, I do note on 29 that the overall funds seem to be almost in kilter, although if you look at the CFR General Fund, there is the other way. We've got an opening balance and it's higher, but the overall figures aren't too far out. So so what it seems is that there's an overall seems to be all right, but underneath there seems to be some issues of possibly under and overspend. So I'd just like to understand how both those two fit together, and particularly with the shortfall. Thank you, Anthony.
Yes, I think the main issue with our larger capital projects is that, as you are well aware, we obtain the money first, we decide on the project, and then we set out to undertake it. A lot of projects can't be done in a year or in a particular year, so they are phased. And we've started in our capital project monitoring, actually splitting down the projects that we've approved for this year into bits that we think we'll do this year and bits that we think we'll do next year. I think in the past, we've assumed that because we've started it, it's all in this year, but actually the project is too big to complete in this year. And that's why, yes, you see effectively an underspend, but that's simply because the project really should be phased over 2 years. What's the benefit or the cost of council? Well, if we don't spend it, we then have the money to invest so that we do make something on the cash that we hold for that project. So I don't think we lose money as a result of it.
Does anybody else like to speak? No. Okay. All those in favour then please show. Anyone against? Any abstentions?
Yes, we'll abstain.
2 abstentions.
Yeah, none of us voted in favour and none of us voted against. We were all abstentions.
Okay. I'd like to introduce David Jones, who is the chairman of the Independent Remuneration Panel. Please, Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words. You've got a brand new remuneration panel because you'll be aware the last panel resigned after the council meeting on the 18th of July 2013. I'd like to thank my colleagues, Malcolm, Barry, Nikki and Brian for their hard work, and particularly Susan Coulter, who's been absolutely fantastic in guiding and supporting us through our journey. As a new committee, we were very keen to understand the area and particularly how things historically have fitted together. And we met on 6 occasions. We interviewed 14 members, including the leaders of the 2 main political groups, and we sent a survey to members, and we also conducted some very extensive desk research. Throughout the fact-finding part of our mission, we were also very aware of the economic backdrop and the low level of wage inflation in the public sector. So, to our recommendations that are contained in the report, the current allowance is £6,360, with £500 for out-of-pocket expenses and £500 for IT, communication and home office for those that decide to run an office at home, which gives a total remuneration of £7,360. We decided this year to leave the £500 allowances unchanged, but we are recommending that the time contributed allowance be raised by 2% from £6,360 to £6,487. This will remove the total remuneration from £7,360 to £7,487, and it will increase the budget, if you accept it, from £343,440 to £350,298. The motivation for this was officers received 1% last year and have a proposal for 1% this year, which is a total of 2% over 2 years. The basic allowance has not moved since 2009, and the panel felt that the members' basic allowance should move as officers' pay had by 2% over 2 years. We were unanimous that this was both fair and reasonable. The special responsibility allowances we decided will remain as now, as we feel these are benchmarked equitably to the market. Our panel, just like the previous panel, were very concerned at the number of SRA payments to deputy executive members prior to the recent local elections. But on meeting the new leader of the council after the election, we welcomed his proposal to change the structure and reduce the number of the exec members from 10 to 8 and to appoint a deputy for each executive member. With the removal of the SRA from the position of deputy leader of the council, this results in savings of £18,500. The panel therefore recommends that the deputy executive member should be paid an SRA of £2,000 per annum. The one other area I would highlight is the childcare and dependent carers allowance. We recommend that that's set and linked to the national minimum wage. We really felt that there should be no barrier put in the way for those who are carers or who have young children to stand as counsellors. The panel also felt very strongly that the expenses and allowances were a right to which members were entitled to, and they were disturbed to hear that some members did not claim all of their expenses because of how this could be perceived by peers or other people. And we were unanimous in wanting that they should be claimed without fear of prejudice. We wanted that very much to be stressed during training and induction, that it was a right. We're very aware that the report is a recommendation for you, and it is for you to decide what you do with it, but we felt that the recommendations we make are fair and reasonable, even in the present economic climate. So I propose the recommendation to stand in my name.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do we have a proposal? Councillor Baker, please.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, first of all, can I express my deepest thanks to the new panel who took over the role in unfortunate circumstances. It could not have been easy to carry out their job under the shadow of the previous incident, but you have carried out your task in exemplary fashion. I know I can speak for all councillors when I say thank you for your efforts. I note on page 63 your comments about the lack of response to the survey, and fully endorse those comments. You have an excellent team willing to do the evaluation and analysis, but they cannot do it properly without councillors' feedback. We all must try harder to respond, as councillors can influence things. You've looked at a wide range of topics covering mileage, childcare, through to pensions, in an extremely fair and reasonable manner. In some cases there are no changes, and in other cases there are minor tweaks. The overall package here is a much fairer and more robust set of rules, which will benefit us all. Your rationale for the 1% increase in basic allowance for 3 years, by comparing it with officers' pay rise, has sound logic behind it. Furthermore, it does not have a tremendous impact on the overall costs, which I know Councillor Pollock will be pleasantly surprised for. Finally, can I turn to the Deputy Executive Member's allowance, which caused all that angst back in 2013. I'm extremely pleased that you have recognised the significant changes in their roles, resulting in your recommendation for their payment. The deputies can now carry on with their work, knowing that it's now been put on a formal footing accepted by all. So once again, thank you for all your hard work. It is much appreciated. I recall this time last year, the opposition strongly urging that we should accept the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel. And so therefore I would like to formally propose the adoption of this report together with all their recommendations. And based on what was urged last time, I am assuming that our colleagues on the opposition bench would be doing so as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder, please? Councillor Pollock, do you want to speak now? Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Bray, please.
Hello, good evening everybody. I also would like to thank the panel for their work. I'm going to come at this from what is basically a philosophical angle. We have an independent remuneration panel because we need to have an impartial group of people looking at how much we are paid for the roles we carry out as councillors. And this is to try to get away from the public perception that if left to themselves, councillors will simply award themselves lots more money. And it's just as possible to swing from awarding ourselves too much to the other extreme, wanting to create a more favourable impression on the public in an effort to get votes, could continually drive down our pay till we get to a point at which only the wealthy can afford to become councillors. The trick is to find the balance between those two extremes, and that's why we have an independent panel. And things can go fairly spectacularly wrong if you don't find the balance. Last year has already been referred to, and let's not go there again. As we have an independent panel for good reasons, the obvious starting point for us is to accept the panel's recommendations as to what is a fair rate for the job, in regard to both the value of the basic allowance that all councillors get and the value of the special responsibility allowances that are paid to those with additional roles, and also all the other allowances that are included. We don't have to adhere to it slavishly if we believe there are sound reasons not to. And in my own case, a few years ago, members will remember I proposed a cut in the value of special responsibility allowances of 5% because money was very tight in the council and because staff pay was under pressure.
That did not get majority support, so the cut did not happen. But as I personally felt strongly about it, I took that 5% cut myself, and as far as I know, I'm continuing to do so. And it's open to other people to do that as well, and I know that the deputy leader has not taken his allowance. So it's not, people can do what they like, but the panel has recommended us a figure. And my final point, I think also was referred to by David Jones, it's about the difference between basic pay and special responsibility. Special responsibility allowances do now account for a large proportion of total councillor pay, and we need to guard against using those allowances as a routine way to top up basic pay for the majority of councillors. The Lib Dem share of that money totals £10,000, and the share due to Conservatives is close to 170,000. And I do hope that next year the panel will look at the number of special responsibility allowances that there are and whether that's appropriate. As Keith indicated, as I've said all the way through this year, the panel has come in, they have looked at our allowances, they've come out with a fair and reasoned report, and we support those recommendations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ferris, please.
Thank you. I agree with Prue that when an impartial group of people come up with proposals, we should be prepared to accept their views. We have no problem with the 2% increase in the basic allowance as proposed, as it represents a fair response to how employees in WBC have been treated over the past 2 years. We do, however, have an issue with the large number of councillors who have been receiving what we call financial top-ups, including SRAs and remuneration from their roles within wholly owned companies. The number of WBC councillors receiving an SRA allowance has increased from 28 in 2013 to 35, even allowing for tweaks, this year, a 25% increase over 2 years. When you include other allowances and payments, we estimate that at least 37 Conservative councillors out of a total of 44, and it may be more, are actually receiving some form of top-up. Whilst it is accepted that many roles deserve an allowance, it is questionable whether all such roles do. On that basis, we would like the IRP panel next year to look at whether all such posts are appropriate for an allowance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak? No. Okay. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Anyone against? That is carried. Agenda item 36. May I remind you that you have 20 minutes in total. 20 minutes in total, and no statement must be longer than 5 minutes. So, Councillor Baton.
Thank you. I just would like to respond to Lindsay's comment. Having reduced the executive, number of executives would be receiving SRA, and there has been no change in things like the overview and scrutiny committees, and I've also reduced the number of directors on the companies. I do actually find it difficult to understand his maths, but I'm sure we can talk about it later. Thank you.
Point of order, I checked them.
Who wants to make a statement? Okay, Pauline?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two small bits of news from me. We've made some recent improvements to the telephone system, which have improved call routing to the council for people ringing in from outside to revenue and benefits. That's about 30% of our call volume in a sample week, and this has reduced caller redirects and improved the customer experience by meaning you can get straight through by pushing various buttons to the person you want to speak to rather than getting bounced around the place. The second change to announce is that we'll be implementing advertising on Woking Borough's website on the 19th, which I think is today. This will bring the council between £25,000 and £30,000 a year revenue per annum, which will be used to support the work of the council in delivering services to residents whilst minimising the cost to the ratepayer. And in view of the fact we are the lowest funded council in the country, that is particularly welcome. Every little helps.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to give an update to the Council on regeneration and community developments. Regeneration first. The first week of September saw the year-long refurbishment of the buildings on the corner of Marketplace and Rose Street come to an end when the keys to the 7 apartments were handed over to Martin and Pope to be marketed to potential buyers. After just a couple of weeks on the market, there are already 25 expressions of interest in the new flats, recognising the quality of the product on offer and the great unique location within Wokingham Town Centre. This first phase of Wokingham regeneration was completed as promised by the end of summer and within the agreed construction budget. We also managed to keep the retailers trading once the refurbishment was delivered. Looking at the before and after photographs of the project, it's amazing to see just how much of an improvement has been made for the town, especially when previously looking up from the marketplace where the old flaky pink facade and roof terraces for the flats could be seen, or along Rose Street where the dark and damp concrete stairs have now been replaced with a bright and enclosed entrance area for the flats. Work on the rest of the regeneration is progressing well, and we continue to expect a planning submission for Beach Place by the end of this year, with the plans for Elmsfield following shortly afterwards. Communities. The Community Development Service continues to enable strong, self-sustaining communities by offering a mix of key services and community engagement. This summer, they successfully delivered a community summer music event in Chinfield. This was attended by the local police and fire services, scouts, community wardens, and 90 local residents. A primary aim of this was to engage with local young people. As a direct result of this event, a group of local young people are now keen to set up a resident winter group for teenagers. They also supported the delivery of a summer play scheme activity in 5 areas of deprivation, and these were attended by 177 children. This helped to provide positive activities for children and a small respite to their parents during the summer break. They promoted healthy activities at the Rainbow Park Community Centre by running a weekly fun-filled club for elderly residents. A messy play session for children and parents, I wonder what that was, also ran a summer farm day event attended by 100 local children and adults. They established a new residents group within the Gorge Ride estate to be a voice for local residents and to increase local community engagement. And in June and July, they held 2 well-attended public meetings to discuss housing issues in the area. Their next meeting in October will explore issues for children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rice, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to inform Council that our plans discussed at last year's Borough Parish Conference to work more closely with our towns and parishes are progressing. Meetings are arranged or have already occurred with initially 4 councils to start a closer dialogue about management of parks, open spaces and other leisure areas and buildings. I will of course keep Council informed as these discussions bring forward positive plans to benefit our residents. Our destination children's play area at Dinton Country Park has continued to be very popular, and numbers using the facility and the Dragonfly Cafe at Dinton continue to hold up. In addition, the new cafe at California Country Park is proving popular and is providing an equal quality service to that at Dinton, with plans for increasing the offering there. I'm delighted my colleague John Kaiser has secured new electric hybrid buses for our routes 126, 127, 128 and 129. And as the Executive Member for Environment, the contribution to our air quality is most welcome. So to add to our leopards and coffee cream buses, we now have coffee mint, imperial and humbug buses. Quality and air quality and good names all in one package.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lots of news over the last couple of months. Following the release of our school results this summer, I can announce that we've seen positive trajectories in pupil outcomes in early years, primary and secondary levels. Early years results show improvement rates, that is, rates of progress, above the national average, especially in language and number skills. Primary schools now show achievement gaps for our vulnerable children narrowing in Key Stage 2 and progress overall consistently above national levels. And the early data analysis shows that our secondary school outcomes follow a trajectory of improvement above national average at GCSE and A-level. I'd like to congratulate our students and thank our teaching staff, governors, council officers and parents for their commitment to helping our student gain these excellent results. On Monday evening this week, we hosted a governors' conference. It was my great pleasure to thank and recognise the dedication and hard work that our governors commit voluntarily to our students across the borough, helping them to achieve. Two very eminent speakers, Sir David Bell, Vice-Chancellor for University of Reading, and Vic Goddard, the head of Passmore's Academy, who came to fame in our screens in Educating Essex. Some of you may know him, I don't know. They gave the audience plenty of food for thought. The conference was attended by over 90 governors, representing 42 of our schools in the borough. Very well attended. I'm pleased to report tonight also that all of our schools are now providing free hot school meals to pupils in reception years 1 and 2, and we've received very positive feedback from schools and from their parents. I also want to thank officers across the council who've worked over the summer to ensure that all of this was achieved. At the beginning of this month, we celebrated our Children in Care Awards for our young people under the age of 11. The awards and achievements included a young person who achieved his first grade sailing award over the summer, which proved an exciting and motivational activity prior to being placed in his permanent forever family. Indeed, at our award we met 2 forever families, with whom 2 of our younger children in care were placed. The children who attended were celebrated, and we felt proud of what they had personally achieved and were inspired by the foster carers and social workers who enabled this to occur. The council continues to recruit carers, and your support in this activity is very welcome. Our Children's Services Department continues to be ambitious, and I'm excited to announce that we've applied to be part of a national innovation programme, which includes only 10 other local authorities. This programme is led by Professor Eileen Munro. Some of you were here in the chamber just 10 days ago to hear Professor Eileen Munro speak about this innovative direction of travel, which is supported by other partners and aims to provide the welfare of our vulnerable children and to effectively safeguard those in need of protection. We have been investing in training of our social workers in an approach called Signs of Safety. We are ready to expand this approach beyond social work teams to provide signs of safety training to all of our practitioners and to support the work across the borough and out into the community. Over the last couple of weeks, since the publication of the Rotherham report, I've been asked a number of questions relating to child sexual exploitation. The Council has worked to implement a joined-up and strong response across social care, the youth service and the police to ensure strong joint work in light of national guidance and regional and national learning over the past 18 months. The Council continues to strengthen and enhance systems. The newly launched multi-agency triage team at our front door, which went live last month, adds to this. Thames Valley Police and Social Care have previously jointly accounted to the Safeguarding Board, both improvements delivered and the impact of them, and are due to do so again. The service is not complacent. There are young people who are vulnerable to abuse in Woking Borough, like there are in every community. We have stronger systems and staff who are more aware of the likelihood of such vulnerability now, and models of work in place which make good use of joint intelligence across agencies in order to robustly safeguard children who are at risk. Over the last 12 months, the Safeguarding Board has sponsored a play called Chelsea's Choice to tour all of our secondary schools to raise awareness amongst our young students of what child sexual exploitation is and what they can do if this is something that is happening to them or to friends of theirs. Last year, the Berkshire-wide Adults and Children's Safeguarding Conference was themed around child sexual exploitation, and all attendees also watched Chelsea's Choice. The Safeguarding Board and member agencies will be working through the Rotherham report as we strive to embrace all opportunities to learn and further improve our services.
We are now moving on to members' question time. where we have 20 minutes and supplementaries are allowed, and I'm going to start with Councillor Ferris.
Thank you. My question is to John. Why have there been delays to the Station Link Road project?
Madam Mayor, Lindsay, thank you for your question. I mean, the main section of the new link road was constructed on time, but unfortunately there's been delays to the phase of the Reading Road due to extra utility and drainage work that needs to be undertaken. Layman's terms, more hand digging. This coupled with the knocking problem we had a year ago, as I say, we've still managed to do it. Although the phase at the passenger transport interchange took longer than planned, it has not impacted on the overall programme. Works to the final phase has been slightly delayed, but the project team is looking to maintain the momentum of construction, and it's anticipated that there are 12 weeks worth of work left to complete. The issue with the road is quite complicated. We can't just close it. We have to fall in line with Network Rail's timetable. People need to get to the station, and obviously there are times that we need trackside access to enable us to do it. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes. With the delays, I presume you're aware that last week work was carried out for over 5 nights in a row up until 6 a.m. and impacted local neighbours in that area. Would you consider any form of compensation, for example, council tax rebate for those residents who were most affected?
Thank you, Lindsay. I've been in communication actually with our legal department, and unfortunately it does not allow us to compensate anybody. The only thing I can suggest to people, that in the event that they feel the value of their property has been reduced because of the road going past the front of the house, they can apply for a revaluation. Thank you.
Councillor Gray, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the council meeting in March, it was resolved to set up a flood review task force. What has been done and when since then?
Thank you, Prue, for your question and the opportunity to update Council on this matter. Since March, the following work has been progressed. Firstly, a flood investigation report is being prepared, and we're working with our consultants, WSP, to both identify which risk management authorities have relevant flood risk management functions and decide whether each of these risk management authorities has exercised or is proposing to exercise these functions in response to a flood. Work has also started to document local experience of the recent floods, identify the causes and consequences of recent floods, identify potential measures to alleviate current and future flood events, and identify possible funding sources to apply for. We will be meeting with all the parishes and affected residents, and the results of this investigation will be published. Officers have been looking at the possibility of raising various of the A roads around the borough to bring them up to a level where floodwaters are unlikely to reach. The issues that need to be addressed are that works cannot allow further flooding of properties, including those much further upstream of the flooding. Modelling is currently being undertaken by our partner WSP to determine the effects of a range of potential solutions which will inform a programme of works. I plan to bring to Council the local flood risk management strategy, a draft of Phase 1 of the flood investigation reports, and an update of the efforts to protect the A roads, as I mentioned, in November.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do, and I'm grateful for the last piece of information about November, which we will look forward to. And there's a lot of things started in there, but not a lot of actual work on the ground. I wonder if you could give us an indication of when you might actually do something physical, some physical work to actually prevent any flooding. Thank you.
Make me sound like a Dutchman put his finger in the dam. Clearly the works to the A roads will depend on the findings of the practicalities and costs involved. All I would say is we are working on all these things, but with staff shortages and as it were the day job of all the routine work to clear road drains and the rest, has put this at a longer time scale than I had hoped, but I can assure that there will be positive things coming forward for Council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rowland, please.
Thank you, Chairman. For Charlotte, in light of the recent report of the failures in Rotherham to protect young girls, please will you review, as soon as possible, Wokingham Borough Council's work related to our young people and go back and check if there are any issues that may have been missed and any improvements that can be made to our processes to ensure that our young people are safe.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. As you're undoubtedly aware, there have been a number of reports published over recent years about systems that have failed to protect children. Most highlight the benefit of hindsight, and I'm supportive of councils and services who continue to try and learn lessons proactively. Rotherham feels drastically different in tone and circumstance. Wokingham Children's Safeguarding and Services are working through this report in detail to extract learning and to test our systems to ensure they're effective. Wokingham Safeguarding Children's Board received a report on the effectiveness of systems and partnership in identifying children at risk of sexual exploitation and keeping children safe in November 2013. The board, which has a statutory accountability role in regard to children's safeguarding services, was satisfied that the systems and partnerships have been improved in light of regional and national learning and were working effectively to safeguard children. Work completed included revised procedures, a range of training and awareness raising exercises for staff and young people, new multi-agency processes to share information and adopt best practice. The reconfiguration and refocusing of the youth service and the development of multi-agency triage team, again our front door, in August 2014 further strengthens our approach. The service works very closely with Thames Valley Police and other agency partners within the borough as well as across Berkshire to ensure children and young people are safeguarded. There is always system learning, and the service and Wokingham Children's Safeguarding Board is reviewing the Rotherham report. I will be well cited on any areas of development and the action plans put in place speedily to address them. In my role as lead member, I will assure myself of the effectiveness of systems to safeguard children in the light of the recently published report.
I do, thank you, and that really wasn't an answer to my question. I asked if we would review the work that has been done by social workers and others in the past, so that we would use our hindsight before it's needed to look at what may have gone wrong that we've missed.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Our work is constantly reviewed and audited, and we are constantly learning from our work that is already done. What I can assure you is that all of our partners are working together to try and safeguard all of our children in our borough. What I can say, if it gives you any comfort, is that we have a strong child sexual exploitation operational group which is made of many partners, including children, adolescent mental health, children's social care, educational welfare service, early intervention service, our health partners, our police, our sexual health leads, our schools targeted youth service and youth spending service. So all of our partners are working together to make sure that all of our children are safeguarded in Wokingham Borough.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shepherd-Day, please.
Which of the projects in the current capital program started late or overrun?
Well, apart from the odd little glitch on Station Link Road due to one or two operational matters, the capital programme this year we're planning to deliver about 53 million. The forecast variance is currently an underspend of £1,000. Other than the Station Link Road, I'm not aware of any other projects that are late. Even the rephased Working Town Centre regeneration is on target for its having been rephased. The monitoring of the capital programme and the delivery against capital schemes has been a key part of the effective financial management arrangements of the Council. Such financial management arrangements make this council one of the best financially run in the country, and this is evidenced by yet another impressive auditor's report into the council's finance.
Do you have any supplementary?
Yes. What are the cost and budget implications to the hard-working taxpayers of Wokingham of this, and how much of the contractors pays a penalty as a percentage of the total cost of the project for not completing on time?
So I think I've answered your question in that there is a projected £1,000 underspend, so I'm not aware of any extra costs to this council, and therefore there are none to my knowledge.
Councillor McCann, please.
Thank you. Moores Lake in Dinton Pastures was almost destroyed as a beacon of wildlife in Woodley in September 2013, following the appalling leak of Thames Water sewage. Unfortunately, the council's response to the initial leak was very weak and ineffective, and failed to take basic evidence or even pictures of the appalling damage, leaving the council without any information necessary to support any subsequent action. From the council's response to this contamination, it would appear that there is neither the manpower nor the budget to do anything other than the day-to-day work. When things go wrong, this council looks impotent. Wokingham Borough residents are paying council tax for first-class services and quality services. What are you going to do to give them the service they are paying for?
Thank you for raising this matter again, Tom. As we've said before, the responsibility for control and action of such incidents is Thames Water and the Environment Agency. Of course, this council and I were and are concerned, and after the initial glitch, which we've discussed many times before, we ensured that appropriate action was being insisted on by the EA and action by Thames Water. The Environment Agency has reported that the incident was, to quote, a Category 3 incident, a minor fish mortality involving the loss of a small number of small non-annual species such as stickleback and or no more than 10 coarse fish or trout. The Environment Agency and Thames Water worked hard and effectively to deal with the incident as it was reported, with this council being informed later than we would have wished, as we have covered before. It was acknowledged by all three agencies that communication should have been better, and more robust communication has now been highlighted should similar incidents occur to ensure all parties have the right level of information. This did not, however, impact on the appropriate remedial action being taken as soon as the incident was reported. Although the incident will have an impact on the lake's ecology, the Environment Agency's experts do not consider the lake requires any further manipulation, as the lake will return to sustainable population levels naturally. The lake has been visited on a number of occasions, not only by them but by our staff, following the incident, and healthy populations of invertebrates were noted, and on the last occasion, 3 herons even were feeding on the lake. And herons don't go there if there's nothing to eat.
Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. This poor service is not an isolated example. We have poor quality services from our country parks and open spaces, with tree management, with planning. I am getting to the question. And with planning, and indeed you've highlighted the issues about capacity to deal with even flood prevention coming up this winter. I again ask you, what are you going to do to increase the quality of services that we are paying for and not getting? Thank you.
If the member would give me specific cases where he believes there has been lack of management of the country parks and open spaces, I will respond.
Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you. This is to the Executive Member for Highways and Planning. Given how much the Council has been investing in providing cycle paths and cycle lanes, what plans do you have to monitor the use of these and check if they are providing both value for money and long-term changes to residents' travel choices.
Thank you, Mayor. And Kate, thank you very much for your question. The success of the cycle paths and cycle lanes will be based on the number of users of the facilities, obviously. As we build new cycle paths and cycle lanes, we will also be installing automatic cycle counters. These counters will be placed at various intervals along the route and are able to detect and count cyclists as they pass through the sensors. We already have a number of these counters placed around the borough, several along the A329, which was installed as part of my Journey project funded by the DFT, a local sustainable transport fund. Data from 8 locations along the A329 showed an average of an 11% increase in the number of people cycling along the A329, with the biggest rise noted in Early, with an increase of more than 17%.
Do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Chopping, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the Executive Member for Resident Services the question standing in my name. I believe that's the correct way of doing it.
Thank you, David, for giving me permission to expand a bit on the statement I made earlier. The advertising, to remind you, will bring in a revenue of £25,000 to £30,000 a year, which will support the work of the Council in delivering services to local residents. This is a reflection of our ongoing work to maximise income for our council taxpayers at a time when government funding is reducing by approximately £3 million per annum. To give you an idea of what we could do with £30,000, we could fill 429 potholes, we could collect waste and recycling from 638 properties, we could clean 26 kilometres of highway, we could provide 80 nights of short, high quality, short break care for children with disabilities, or we could fund a social worker. So, as I said, every little helps, and it really does make a difference to what the council can do.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor. It's what assurances can you give that all advertising will be appropriate to the code and ethics maintained by this council?
Thank you, David. We maintain complete control over the suitability of advertisers. The advertising has been carefully designed for minimum intrusion on the website, and we can withdraw from any advertising at any time if we conclude it's not beneficial.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to question times. Question from members. No supplementaries allowed, so could you please show if you want to speak? Councillor Orton, please.
My question to the Executive Member for General Planning and Affordable Housing is, can you please outline the action the Council is taking to ensure that Crest Nicholson comply with the planning consent at Mulberry Grove in Norris Ward? Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. Sometimes I wish I did have my old job. In my hand, I have a breach which we serve on Crest Nicholson. This is the second time that we've done this year. We've done it once with Sibley Hall, and we actually enforced the stop notice on them. If they do not obey this breach notice, the next is a stop notice, which financially is very damaging to these developers. We, as a council, are in favour of sustainable development. What we are not in favour of is builders flaunting or disregarding conditions we put on planning applications. So that's what we're doing.
The replacement Loudon Park and Ride has been delayed for almost a year. The Merrow Park and Ride cannot be progressed without it, as both are dependent on government funding which will disappear next March. Will you guarantee that the new park and rides will be operational before the council loses the money?
Obviously, we will try to build it as quickly as we possibly can, but you must realise that we're jointly engaged with this already, and we really can only move at the same pace that they're prepared to move it.
Councillor Yunis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question for the Executive Member for Environment. Can you please update us where we are with in terms of transferring the operation of Bullmarsh Leisure Centre to Seasalt? Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. All aspects of this are progressing well, and only today there was a further meeting between the Borough and with the Town Council. And I'm confident that the dilapidations matters, the lease and the Tukey matters will be successfully completed. This is a very good facility for Woodley, and its transfer will ensure significant investment by both this council, which is Section 106 money, and our leisure contractor, and will extend the facilities for the residents in the form of a gym and some immediate decoration. Further consideration of longer-term refurb or rebuild will be worked on soon. We're working closely with Bullmarsh School to give them further access to facilities and to get all the on-site facilities to have more coordinated and extended car parking. The doom reports by some parties should be totally dismissed.
No, I didn't say nothing.
Following complaints from residents in Twyford and surrounding areas who are outraged about the noise disturbance from the Hearst Festival, what systems are in place to ensure that this does not happen again?
Thank you, Dave. Yes, we were very disappointed with the noise issue from Hearst Festival. The people who actually asked for the licence didn't do what they said they were asking for in the licence, and any future licence applications from those particular individuals will be reviewed in that light.
Councillor Holden, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We've already had a question about cycle paths tonight and had a very positive response to what seemed a very negative question. Whilst walking around my ward, I've spoken to many residents who cycle and those who have never considered getting on a bike, and the feedback has been very positive. So my question to the Executive Member of Planning and Highways, and I would like a simple yes or no answer on this, please. Would you accept my thanks for listening to the concerns of the ward members and providing such a useful and safe cycle path for the residents of both Early?
No.
Councillor Bray, please.
Surely Madam Mayor, my answers are that bad. Thank you.
You won't thank me for this one, I don't think. This is a highways question. There's a railway bridge by Winnersh Station, which one side of the pavement has steps in it, which a lot of people, including the NAG and Parish Council, have been trying to get smoothed out so that it's usable by wheelchairs and people with buggies. Work started on that at last in August. It was due to take 10 days. It's already the middle of September, and we've just been told it's going to take another 5 weeks because something has gone wrong with the guardrail that stops people falling onto the railway line. Made to the wrong specification. We understand they can't finish the works. So I'm not going to entirely blame the council for the length of time, but I do want to know what steps we're going to take with our contractor to try and obtain some recompense for a bad job.
I know of the problem, but I didn't know the extent of the problem, and I think the best thing I can do is say that I will take this up with the relevant officers and report back to you outside the meeting, if that's okay.
Councillor Barrow, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a ward question. I'm afraid again for the Executive Member for Planning and
Oaklands Drive in my ward is experiencing highway safety problems due to the parking associated with the new care home Alexandra Grange. In view of the planning consent recently given to a development on the Folly Court side, which could exacerbate the problem, could the executive member explain what measures the council has taken to ameliorate the situation, please?
Thank you, Chris. On August the 12th, we actually resolved to advertise a consultant scheme to prohibit waiting on the length of Oakland drives. Following the opening of Alexandra Court care home in 2010, it had been observed that the staff and visitors associated with the care home were parking on Oakland's drive, but also they were parking on the bend, which would of course raise safety issue. The council has given permission for an additional 100 properties to be developed at Foley Court. The Foley Court land in Blacklands are the old guide dogs for the blind. And it's likely that residents from these properties will use Oakland's drive to gain access to Monument's Lane. It is therefore we are suggesting that the proposed restrictions that we will take forward to improve the road safety. It is not planned to remove all of the parking because it would not be appropriate, but it will still allow overtaking on the road.
Thank you. Councillor Longman.
Thank you, Chairman. John, I'll turn away from you and then you won't realise I'm speaking to you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really glad that you've spoken about cycle paths this evening and been told that people have been put back on their bikes that haven't used bikes for a while. Sadly, in my ward, the opposite's happened. Since the demise of the number 19 bus coming through Southlake, my residents have been forced back into their cars. They can't get easily by public transport to either the Lord Berkshire Hospital or to the GP's practice in Loddon Vale. They would have to change buses, hang around in the rain and the wet, should it ever rain again, and get cold in the winter. And a lot of us in Southlake are getting older, many are disabled, and I'd like to meet with you, please, and see what we can do about this. Southlake residents are completely disenfranchised by the changes that have been made, and I think that needs to be addressed. Certainly at a public meeting that was held at the Town Council last week, they were very vociferous in their needs for a bus service. So if we could talk after this meeting, we can arrange a date to get together to talk about it.
I would be pleased to meet with a member, or with any member who has issues such as this.
Right. Have I forgotten anyone? Maybe chopping, please.
Thank you. John, last night the main neighbour was the subject of a poor piece of planning legislation. May the residents of Maiden Early seek your help in finding or arranging a change in the legislation which served us so badly.
David, I'm very disappointed in the outcome of last night. As you say, it's badly framed national guidance with good intentions, but it's unfortunate that a major company sees fit to use that badly framed guidance to bully both its customers and local council. So I will be talking to the chairman of planning with a view to not only visiting the minister, but also speaking to officers to see whether or not we can offer any additional protection to public houses in the borough.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the Executive Member for Environment. I'd like to thank you, Angus, for your prompt action this week to secure the Ribble Stream Bridge over the River Embrook to the rear of Morrison's in Moose Hill, which had fallen into disrepair very recently. So much so that a young child or animal could have easily fallen through the rotted and broken side spindles. Now, whilst this has been made safe in the short term for all users, can you please advise me of the long-term plans to effect a permanent repair? Thank you.
And I did the Willett Meadows one at the same time, which is in a similar state as that.
Yeah. You didn't ask me about that, bro. Thank you, Philip. Yes, we had obviously to make this safe as soon as possible, but I'm assured that our contractors are following this up, and I'm not sure of the construction of the bridge myself, but it apparently involves the ordering of some spindles, which will take some time to manufacture, to fabricate, and they will be fitted as soon as possible.
Councillor Kate Haynes, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the Executive Member for Planning. Would you be able to give us an update to this Council on the Planning Enforcement Service, primarily focusing on staffing and resource, along with updates on recent cases, both successful and unsuccessful, please?
Mayor, thank you, Kate, thank you for your question. We have a duty to try and resolve planning breaches through negotiation. Where it cannot be resolved in this way, in a timely fashion, firm action will be taken through the planning enforcement process available to ensure the breaches are resolved. The service has taken considerable steps to improve, and I'm pleased to report good progress continues to be made. Currently, there are more than 200 live enforcement cases. That's not bad, considering we've only got 2 enforcement officers. Currently, as I say, we've served 18 enforcement notices, and we've attended more than 20 public inquiries and legal cases. There is a strong commitment to ensure our services continue to improve.
Thank you very much. Now have I forgotten everyone? Okay, so let's move on then. We have a motion. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a motion about how councillors are appointed, removed and remunerated as non-executive directors of council-owned limited companies. The motion refers only to councillors. It says that explicitly. It does not seek to cover the appointment or removal of any other directors. We are not trying to control what company boards do, which I think would be illegal. We are seeking a fair, open and transparent system within the council for how councillors are selected to become non-executive directors and how they are subsequently removed from their posts. The level of fairness, openness and transparency that we want, including openness and transparency on what these non-executive directors are being paid, is no more than the same level of fairness, openness and transparency as currently exists for all other appointments. Every year at annual council, we make appointments to outside bodies. Everyone knows who the representatives are because that information is published. Some positions are contested and council has an opportunity to vote on them, even if the vote is always going to go the way of the controlling group. There is the opportunity to discuss individuals' suitability for an appointment. Representatives can change during the year, but there is a formal process associated with that. People are offered an opportunity to put their name forward, and decisions are all published. Where positions on outside bodies are paid, such as the Fire Authority, that pay is publicly reported in the appropriate place, and people can find the information if they want to know about expenses. None of that applies with respect to appointing councillors to companies. Not any of it. A far more rigorous process applies to outside body representatives, even though most of them get no additional money at all, while the pay available to non-executive directors is almost as much as the basic councillor allowance. It is simply not right that councillors can be appointed or removed as non-executive directors without anybody outside a small inner circle having any idea who they are, when they were appointed or removed, why they were appointed or removed, or how much they are paid, and without there being any opportunity for anyone else even to put themselves forward for the role. It is unacceptable that we have had to check Companies House to find out about the appointment of directors, and that even then the information doesn't match what we can find out from other sources. It is unacceptable that up-to-date information on directorships hasn't been appearing in the reports on the limited companies which go to executive, until by some weird coincidence, surely not connected with this motion, couldn't be, could it? It has appeared on the agenda for next week's executive meeting. It's unacceptable that at any point we do not know for sure who the non-executive directors are and what their roles are in the companies. This has to stop. We have brought this motion forward because we have got tired of waiting for the ruling Conservative group to address the issue. It is over 2 years now since they agreed to do something about it, and nothing has changed. What we are asking for is the minimum that needs to happen. Anything less will not be good enough, and anyone who has an ounce of respect for due process should vote for this motion as it stands.
Do you have a second? Would you like to speak now?
I'll wait.
Does anybody like to speak on this? Councillor Lee, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. These trading companies, as I'm sure you're aware, were set up under my leadership of this authority. And it was to allow the benefits of independent trading and specifically the generation of profits to help this authority. As you well know, the authority is the worst funded in the country. I'm delighted with what these companies have achieved and what they will achieve in the future. I'm therefore not in favour of imposing the dead hand of bureaucracy on innovative projects by an innovative council, which is what this is, for the benefit of our residents. The directors of our company split into 3 groups. The first group is the experienced executive directors who look after the day-to-day running. The second group are non-executives who are appointed specifically for their expertise and experience in the fields required. And thirdly, by no means least, non-executive directors who are councillors who bring experience and represent the residents as owners of these companies. In addition to the skill set as councillors, our councillor non-executive also bring with them a vast level of experience. They have been main board directors of national and international companies. They have been experienced as being MDs in companies here in the UK and worldwide. They have professional expertise in property. They are owners of their own successful businesses. They have set up businesses and have previous experience indeed as other non-executives in different aspects from this authority. All directorship details are fully available from Companies House or indeed by simply asking at these meetings. You can be told there is nothing secret about it. The salaries paid are at the lower end of the range paid in the NHS and confirmed in the IOD reports. Those range from £6,000 to £25,000, which is what our non-executive directors get. Indeed, the non-executive directors from outside this council get substantially more. I'm against this motion because it involves establishing yet another talking show. All details are already openly available. Proof, you simply have to ask. Trading results are clearly visible and payment is fair and reasonable. I urge you to reject this motion.
Councillor Kaiser.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can only reiterate what David said. And if you'd like to look on the website, I think you'll find that all the details for the directors and the company are actually on the Borough website. These are financial entities, although we are the shareholder, major shareholder, and hopefully as time goes forward they will be producing commercial returns. In my experience, you have the best people for the job, and the worst thing you can do is try and decide on what directors you should have by committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am currently Chairman of Optimist and I am a non-executive director of the holding company.
Sorry, Anthony. Standing Order 4212S, Madam Mayor. That's the only thing I can think of to hang this off. As Councillor Pollock has just said, he is a director of Optilis. Councillor Lee, I believe, is a director of one of the holding companies, and there are a number of other councillors in the chamber who are also non-executive directors of companies. And a large number of them, we don't know exactly who, are being paid. We therefore believe that amounts to a direct pecuniary interest in this agenda item, and therefore they should have declared their interest and left the chamber. And we would like a ruling on this because we do believe that is the case. And if they're not being paid, then it's at least a declarable interest, which may be non-pecuniary. But we do believe that they have a pecuniary interest and they should not be participating in this item. That also applies to David Lee.
Could you
Thank
just clarify, Councillor Gray, what difference does it make if you compare all the councillors here are being remunerated?
We are discussing pay and conditions and appointments and the methods by which people are appointed for positions which are remunerated. And therefore we believe that is those people are receiving remuneration for those positions at the moment. If they aren't now, they will be by next Thursday when it goes to executive.
Thank you. Could I suggest that we should all have left when we heard from David Jones earlier on?
That is a specifically excluded item for which we can have a dispensation as
We asked for a ruling.
That we're asking for a ruling. We do believe that there is an interest that the public would think that people taking part in a discussion on how they have themselves have been appointed or might be appointed to a position for which they can gain money is not in conformity with the Code of Conduct.
I'd just like to make an observation. I mean, it would appear that we're being asked to give more information. As soon as somebody jumps up to give more information, they're immediately asked to leave
Only the
the
people who have
chamber.
declared, only the people who haven't declared an interest have been asked to go, not people who haven't. I had to stand up and declare a non-pecuniary interest at the very beginning. So if you've got a financial interest, you shouldn't be here and you're breaking the law.
Yeah, it's a criminal offence.
Just say I don't have an interest.
No, you don't.
I know that's what I'm saying.
No? No, we fully accept that.
I am referring to paragraph 9 to 10.1, and I understand that there are members here with disclosable pecuniary interests. So I will ask you to declare that and then leave the room, please. Councillor Reagan.
They've already gone, but I will declare on all of their behalf through the relevant interest that you just mentioned.
Is that list to be available?
Can we have a list of who they are?
It's on the website.
Otherwise we will not declare them. Many of you guys left us. You probably will have another company get a job for you somewhere.
There's still a lot more of us than there are.
Oh, well said, well said.
Vote's closer now. Sorry, where are we?
Sorry, I just thought I'd mention, during the 5 minutes we've had at the interval, I have been on this thing and went this way for Scottish independence, hopefully they'll stay, but I found all the information that we are debating about here on the council website. I don't understand the problem here. very, very quickly I was able to find all the information that was required. So, don't understand the issue.
Madam Mayor, I believe that the most sensible thing now is to move quickly to a conclusion. However, I would like to say that we're not asking, well, we are asking for some properly published information about who the things are, but to know in advance that the positions are being advertised and the reasons why people are being put on and removed. So it's more complicated than just knowing, but even then we're not sure. We will have a look at the people who've gone in and out, and we'll see how that pans out. But I think what we are asking for is a proper process. I've got a fairly good idea which way this vote's going to go, but we will have the vote and we will pursue the matter of the declaration of interest after this meeting and hopefully reach some sort of conclusion on that. Thank you.
Councillor Harris.
Can I use a different...
Just a second, you don't have to speak.
Yeah, can you hear me? I won't speak for very long. I think we're coming to conclusion. The reason for this motion was to try actually to be helpful, because I think that it was a genuine attempt to clarify the current situation which is far from satisfactory. You know, you have to dig around, maybe you look on the website, such like, but you know, how many here tonight know exactly which councillor is on which body? Yes, you've had to go on the website and look for it, but you have to know it should be automatically available. What rules they do, I suspect not many. We need to remember that council-appointed directors still have to adhere to the national standards for hiring and firing of ordinary directors. Can WBC say that they at least match that requirement in this area? I'm not so sure. It is important for these companies to have the best possible persons on the board. Don't disagree with that. We're not unsupportive of the companies. I very much like to see, in particular, the likes of Optilis do well. However, one thing I would like is, what is the problem in particular of the full council ratifying appointments? We, as the full council, do actually own these bodies. So what is the problem? Is there anything to hide? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's some problems. I don't know. And that's something that I think we just need to lead at. The whole idea of this motion wasn't to be destructive. It was actually to try to be constructive. And that's why we put it together. It may have turned out to be, but it was a constructive motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bray, do you want to add anything or can we go straight to the vote? Right, okay. All those in favour of the motion, please show. Those against, please. The motion is defeated. Councillor Baker, could you please ask the other members to come back?
Took the opportunity and left.
I think they've gone to the pub.
Let's give them a chance. Members, that concludes tonight's council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.